All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Eric D'Andrea. I'm here today to talk to you about Quarkus DevServices, something new that came in Quarkus 1.13. So with Quarkus, one of the main goals is to make developer lives easier and bring back developer joy. So in 1.13, we added this new element, DevServices, to the recipe. And so the way this works is when you're starting in dev mode or live reload or live coding, we can automatically start database containers for your application as well as for your tests without you having to do any configuration at all. So the container that gets started is automatically wired to the Quarkus dev mode configuration. So for instance, if you're developing a Postgres-based application like our example that I'm going to show you, as soon as you have any of the Postgres extensions, whether it's the JDBC extension or the reactive extension, it doesn't really matter. But once you have that declared, the container will get started using test containers under the covers. So let's take a look at how this works. So I've got an application here. It's a pretty simple application. It uses the REST Easy Reactive and the Hibernate Panache Reactive extensions, but that part really doesn't matter. It's more about having the right database extension. So in this case, I'm using the reactive Postgres, but again, the Postgres JDBC extension, it would work just the same. There's an entity class, which is pretty standard. Couple of attributes, some database generation things like sequencing and not nulls and unique columns. We're using the repository pattern here, so there's an extra attribute or an extra operation for finding fruits by names. There's a JAX-RS resource class for finding fruits. There's a couple of operations. One is to get all of them. Another is to get by a particular name. So given a path attribute or a path parameter, we can search the database for a particular fruit by its name. And remember from the entity class that column, the name column is unique. So there should ever only be one. So there's either one or zero. So in the case of it finding one, it'll return the fruit. If it doesn't find one, it'll return a 404. And then there's a method for adding fruits. The application configuration is pretty simple. The only thing we're configuring here is to tell Hibernate that when the application starts to drop the schema and recreate the schema upon startup. And that's really about it. So if we go to our running application, we ran the Quarkus dev, did its compilation. But if you notice, when it started up before the application started, it connected to the Docker host. So it does require a container runtime. In my case, I happen to be running Docker Desktop for Mac, but any Docker runtime would work just fine. So it connects to the Docker runtime. And then the key piece of information here is you notice it's starting a Postgres 13.2 container image. It just without the developer having to do anything, it makes a guess based on the database driver that you're using. So in my case, I was using a Postgres extension, so it's going to go and it's going to pull down a Postgres uh, image, and then it's going to start the image, and then it's going to start the application and bind the application to that image. So now that our application is up, we can go and we can make some requests. And so I have some requests already pre-canned here. So by default, there's nothing in the database. So if we run the query to get all of our fruits, there's nothing there. So we'll go ahead and we'll put something there running our post. You notice it comes back, we didn't post an ID, so it came back with an ID. So the database generated the ID and sent us back the ID. If we then go and we run our get by name operation, we can see it returns just that single fruit. And if we rerun the get all the fruits, you see it gives us back only the one, but it's in an array. So if there were more than one fruit there, it would return all of them. So that's about it for this video. The only other thing I'll showcase is, by default, there's nothing here, but there are some properties that you can control that show or to control what image gets started. So if I wanted a particular version of Postgres, for example, I could go in and I could say image name equals, say, version 10, for example. If I wanted to run it with version 10, I could. Now I will have to restart my dev mode in order for that to pick it up. So if I go back to my dev mode and I rerun my Quarkus Dev, that when it starts up, it will pull the Postgres 10 image. And that's about it for this video. Thanks very much for watching and have a great day.